All right, team, welcome back to the Ask Matty Show. We have a banger show for you today. We're going to be discussing Algorand. Algorand may be a focus of this video, getting into some technicals and some little discussions about Algorand. We're also going to discuss the most new question of the day today, how to get rich off XRP. We're going to get into that, a little bit of HBAR, and a little bit into some VELO insights. But before we get into the content today, Matty, team, become a Crypto Charge member. Click the pin link down below. It'll take you to our website. Use code YouTube. That is our crypto education platform. The shows, the tools, and the Discord all available over there. Team, we had a banger show on Monday, and if you missed that, I highly suggest you go check that out, responding to some rumors online about Casper and Hedera, and we went through the AMA from last week. We did a little recap on that, so go check that out. I told you guys if it got 300 likes before the next recording, I mean, the show was only 16 hours ago. If it got 300 likes, we would extend the show 4 minutes, and you guys came up short. So That's on you. That's not on me. I mean, I was asking Matty before the show, was 300 too big of an ask? I'm like, they just didn't want it bad enough. So team, that's on you guys. Maybe try again next week, but we appreciate the feedback from you guys. It was actually surprisingly majority positive. Like, I saw a lot of new people in there giving some positive feedback, so thank you for that. And today we're going to be getting into some great questions, so make sure you stay until the end. Matty, are you ready for these questions?
Let's do this thing.
Jazz says, can you please do a price prediction on Algorand?
Absolutely. And I did want to piggyback off what you said yesterday about, the record-breaking numbers for the show that we had, in such a short period of time. It really does mean a lot to me when you guys interact on our YouTube content, because obviously the bigger goal here is, to, make sure that, I sell my program and we get more people involved. But I also do care about people getting good quality information without having to pay for that information. So you guys liking the content, you guys leaving comments, that genuinely makes my heart happy. And it does, further my goal of helping people, even people who can't afford our program. So I appreciate that. Let's get into some charting though. Let's go ahead and take a look here at Algorand. Let's do a price prediction, even though I really don't like that particular phrase. It's really more of like a price probability, I guess what people call it, but I understand why we call them price predictions. So let's go ahead and pull it up here on the crypto chart. We're going to strip this bad boy all the way down. You guys know the deal. And let's come out to, first of all, like a 3-day chart, just so we can see all the data that's available here. So we've got back here in 2019, got this swing high over here. We didn't create this new high in 2021. We actually didn't fill that wick out. Let me just triple check that we don't have more history. I'm pretty sure that's all the history we have. Yeah, that's all the history we have. We'll flip back to the crypto chart here. You will find a little bit more liquid action on smaller frames, but we didn't actually create a new high here. So you actually have technically a liquidity wick right around $3.31 here for Algorand. The high over here that was set in November of 2021 came around 281. So there's technically still a little bit of imbalance on that wick that is available to be filled. One of the other things I'm also looking at on this chart is that there is a ton of imbalance that got left behind up in this pocket right in here. Again, if you guys are hearing me say liquidity pockets, imbalance that got left behind, this might sound a little bit foreign to you. We give you guys all of the tools on our website to understand the strategy a little bit more granularly. But between 71 cents and $1.18 is a very, very liquid pocket for Algorand. So if you wanted to play something a little bit more short term and you're like, I like Algorand, but I want to do some profit taking before I do all-time high, current market up into the bottom of that pocket is over a 4x, and to the top of that pocket is about an 8x. So first of all, short term, without making a new all-time high, a 4 to 8x is on the table for Algorand. That's going to blow your Bitcoin potential out of the water. Now, let's go ahead and grab our tool, guys. This is our Fibonacci tool. And you might see this Fibonacci tool and you're like, hey, I got TradingView. Mine doesn't look like yours. Why does yours look different than mine? That's because you can customize the tools inside TradingView. I show you guys how to set up your Fibonacci's exactly like mine on the website here. So we go swing high, we go swing low. And again, that's 236 supports that first target I talked about there. So again, that short-term target is supported by that Fibonacci. But the first big target that we could see here for Algorand, if we were to make a significant all-time high, would be right around 462. So current market to that 1.618 is over a 33x opportunity. Now, I know we're all speculating, saying, we've got all these new projects out there and not everything's going to go and reach a 4.236. But when you look at some of the assets out there that are right now offering, sub 236, and then the 1.6 offering like a 5x or a 6x, and then you look at this offering like a 33x, that's absolutely phenomenal. I think if Algorand were to go all the way, we would see a really big blow off top. We could get somewhere between $7 and $11. Obviously, trading at 13, 14 cents right now. That does put us upwards of a 55 to almost an 88x. Now, My biggest suggestion always to you guys, if you guys watch the Consistent Investor Strategy on our show, is that TP1 to take a significant amount of money off the table. I'm talking about 30 to 50% of your position, right? We don't want to have our head on the clouds. You don't want to be that bag holder, right? Like I would be over the moon with a 30 plus X here on Algorand. So I will absolutely be taking a massive chunk up there in that $4 to $5 region. You guys can play it however you want, but that is going to be one of the big places that I look for Algorand to be doing some serious profit taking is right around the $4 to $5 mark.
So, Matty, you just showed Algorand at Take Profit 1 being a 33x, and I just wanted to jog your memory from last week. You charted HBAR, and Take Profit 1 on that is an 18x from current market price from 4.9 cents to 91 cents. I wanted to ask you, are you longer term bullish on Algorand or HBAR?
Oof, that's really a tough question, but it's a good question. Different consensus mechanisms from the get-go. I think if I had to bring it down to the tech itself, I think I actually like HBAR a little bit more because I think the hash graph model is incredibly valuable. Risk to reward wise though, obviously Algorand runs circles around HBAR. So, Algorand could still technically underperform in relation to making a new all-time high and outpace HBAR. But I really do like HBAR a lot. I like earning a little bit of APY on my HBAR. So I think if I had to pick one term for a very long-term play, I would actually pick HBAR. This does not mean that I'm not looking at all the partnerships with Algorand and them, creating stable coins for small economies on islands and, tokenizing real world assets with Lofty and a variety of other things. Like I see the development of the growth. I'm not poo-pooing Algorand or saying it's not going to go exponentially higher. I think just right now, if I had to be a purist about the tech, I like HBAR long-term more.
Yeah, I'm longer term bullish on Hedera too, mainly because they're allegedly getting Prove AI. Just a joke. Don't take that the wrong way, you guys.
They're gonna run with it, bro. They're gonna clip you.
Some of the people on Twitter were like, "Hey, you guys keep pushing the narratives." Like we don't push the narratives. We just. I think Matty described this last week. When I title a video, I do want clicks. All right, what's funny, Matt? We can look at Fox News and we can look at CNN on how they titled their blogs and articles, but when I do the clickbaity stuff, it's wrong, apparently. Right. So, and it's in the vein, guys. If you guys want the truth of the matter, watch the video, okay? Don't judge a book by its cover. Char says, so how do people even get rich off XRP if it does blow up?
So we were talking about this backstage, and I know that sometimes you guys are like writing compressed comments, and I know some of these come from like TikTok, and TikTok also has like a very like short character count. So I understand some of you guys are like cramming your comments in there. So sometimes though I have to speculate. So if you guys are able to expand a little bit more on your thoughts, it'll help me more answer your question more accurately. I'm guessing though, and again, this is the only way that I'd probably actually be able to answer this question. I'm guessing is that you have probably read or heard about people, earning APY on their XRP at like, let's say like 20 to 40% APY from BlackRock, and they stake it all up, and people just earn passive income from that. I personally don't think that they're ever going to offer that kind of ridiculous APY. They're not even offering that kind of APY on, cash money, right? Like you're not even getting that in the bond market right now. So I think it really comes down more to like the ideology of like, I don't think that that's the case. And I think that it's really more about the strategy of just like buying, selling, reaccumulating, buying, selling, reaccumulating, like trying to be tactical each cycle. So for me, it's just the same as strategy with every other asset. It's to accumulate under a certain tolerance. Once that tolerance is broken, take my foot off the gas completely. Once TP1 is hit, significantly de-risk, and then continue to de-risk at the other take profits, reaccumulate at those targets at the next level, and continue with that cycle after cycle, right? So again, it's my XRP play is the equivalent to the Bitcoin play. Imagine Bitcoin though is at 3K right now. It's like 60 something K, 70 something K, right? So that's kind of how I look at it. It's more of a very long-term snowball effect for me versus like, oh, I'm just going to accumulate, never sell anything, and eventually BlackRock's going to give me 40% APY. That's kind of just my strategy with it. I'm not going to base my strategy on the what ifs. Eventually, I would like to borrow against my XRP, and again, that's something that I pay money to borrow against, right? Like there's interest to be paid versus being paid interest for that. So I think it's a little bit different. But overall, that's my strategy. Literally buy low, sell high. It's really not too complicated.
Crypto Maxi says, are projects like ALGO and IOTA fading into the background with all these mass cryptos coming to market? Thanks.
That's a good question, actually, and it is something to consider. It's actually a topic that I've touched on many times, and it's also something that I really appreciate how much Kevin Cage has touched on when it comes to kind of like managing your risk on both sides of, you know, making sure that you're de-risking and you're not just holding on to all the dinos, but you're also holding on to some portions of stuff that you like and you actually believe in long term, and hedging against yourself in the event that you're wrong. So I really haven't heard a lot about IOTA. I think that IOTA is probably a better example than Algorand, just because it truly has faded into the background. I think like IOTA and Dash are probably like the two that have faded the most, other than maybe EOS and Litecoin and a handful of others. But those still at least are like, you know, traded. They're still talked about. They're still with Litecoin, like the POW model, so they're still like active mining. But nonetheless, I think that Algorand specifically has done a good job of staying in the forefront here with their developments, with their roadmap, with their partnerships. So I don't think that Algorand will fade into the background. However, there will be companies that fade into the background, right? Like when we look at the tech bubble, you know, that happened over, what was it, like 2 decades ago, decade and a half ago. You look at that tech bubble, and a lot of those companies are not here anymore, right? Like it's a very volatile space. VC money comes and goes. So there will be projects that absolutely die off. Like I'm never a person who's like, every project's going to make it and they're continuing to hit a 4.236 cycle after cycle. I sincerely believe though that Algorand's probably a little bit different in this particular situation, but a project like IOTA without, you know, momentum, without, you know, providing something proprietary in the space, without being competitive, will absolutely fall into the background. You even look at some of the tech now, right? Like one of the big things we've talked about is like the Ethereum Solana merge. So you've had all of this building, even in the last cycle on Ethereum, and there's still going to be plenty of building on Ethereum, but you've had a lot of applications and builders migrate over to Solana because the TPS, the throughput is so much bit higher. The transaction cost is so much lower. It just makes more sense for application builders to build on the more efficient tech, right? So not to say that Ethereum doesn't have excellent tech and there isn't a lot of like support for it already, but over time we will see new projects outpace the old technology, just because that's the overall, you know, progression of technology. Right? Like eventually the Walkman becomes obsolete. Eventually the iPod becomes obsolete. Eventually we probably won't even do phones anymore. It'll be a little chip in your head and you'll have a little glass screen. You know, like it's just the evolution of tech. And eventually it does become obsolete. Usually it doesn't become obsolete overnight, but there is a progression of technology that's very natural, and that is something you should accept. So that's also part of the investment strategy, right? Like de-risk most of your investment, but if you see something that's still progressing forward, there's a good roadmap, keep some of it to hedge against yourself and be like, hey, maybe they continue forward and they continue to outpace the rest of the competition. It's kind of how I view it, but it is a very good question.
Matty, not this Monday show, and I don't think it was this last after our show from last week, but it was either last week's after our show or the one before that. I ended the show abruptly, and we were talking about collaboration. And I kind of left you guys with like a question that we could talk about in the future. It was like, you know, do these crypto projects need collaboration to exist? Or it was something to that effect, right? And you were just talking about Algorand. And I was just sitting here thinking about like all the collaborations Hedera has been doing as of recent, you know, whether it's with compliance, with Ripple and Aptos that they've been really doing, or even like projects, you know, forming new blockchains. And we covered a couple shows ago about Algorand and Cardano, you know, those CEOs or, you know, CFOs of those foundations are really tight and they're looking to do like an AI partnership right now. And so I wanted to throw this at you, Matty. Does collaboration, is that necessary for some of these projects to stick around for longer? Because as I was sitting here and thinking about it, it's like the cryptos, the, you know, the teams that are collaborating with other networks, that are collaborating with companies, or collaborating with other companies, whether it's compliance or whether it's tools, they seem to be the ones sticking around. Whereas the ones that, you know, we talk about here and there, like the Dino coins that don't do as much collaboration, aren't really at the forefront. Do you see what I'm seeing in that?
Yeah, I do. I think collaboration is very important, and interoperability is also very important. I think one of the phrases that I heard at the XRP summit a couple of years ago, the Dev Summit, and somebody was speaking, I can't remember the exact, I think it was federated sidechains for the XRP ledger, but the presenter said something to the effect of blockchains are siloed by nature. So they're supposed to be kind of like isolated, they're supposed to be protected, they're supposed to kind of always only operate within their own ecosystem, and that's what provides a lot of the value of a blockchain or other DLT solution. And I think that sometimes we get like the mindset of like, I'm a Bitcoin holder and I'm a Bitcoin maxi, and this is the only ecosystem that matters, right? And we kind of have had that mentality because you don't see a lot of interoperability in a lot of ecosystems, so you don't really care about those collaborations. But over time, you are going to want to see more interoperability and more collaborations, and the ability to quickly switch between chains, bridge between chains, and the average person to be able to do that. So both from like a regulation standpoint, from a collaboration standpoint of, working together to make ecosystems more efficient, I think it's very important long term that we continue that kind of conversation. And it's absolutely necessary to see us move forward here, right? Like you see, even though Coinbase and Binance and some of these other people are competitors, they're all contributing to the same funds, right? And there's a reason behind that. They understand the greater risks of not working together versus collaborating and taking some of their profits and reinvesting into the community. That's how I look at it, is they're reinvesting into us as the crypto community.
Kevin says, hi, just to clarify, do you all think HBAR is going to top at 91 cents, or is that just the beginning? Could it go much higher?
So there's always the possibility of much higher, right? And one of the things that you will always see every cycle without fail, and you always will have a new wave of investors every cycle that never have seen, what's happened before. We were kind of joking, but I was actually very serious in our group recently, and they said, we were talking about, selling, and we were talking about depth of each market and how much money it takes to make a market move. And we were talking about Casper, and they go, who are we actually going to sell this Casper to? And I said, people who have one less cycle of experience than you. And that sounds really shitty to say, but it's true, because that mentality of price is always going to go a little bit higher when we get into those bullish periods. Everyone keeps upping their targets as we get close to the targets that we already been over the moon for. And that's also because you have a massive wave of new investors that didn't get in until, let's say, like whatever, 25 cents, 40 cents for HBAR. And they're like, yeah, of course it's going to $35. My homie says it's going to 35. So for me, when I use the Fibonacci here, we'll just go ahead and revisit this really quickly, guys. Go ahead and make sure you guys check out last week's show. We did a really, really good in-depth review here of HBAR. But we have 92 cents as that 1.618. So again, the consistent investor strategy I teach you guys there tells you guys, hey, taking 30 to 50% off the table at TP1 is a very, very good idea, right? You've done all this hard work to accumulate. Let's say that let's say your average is not even that great. Let's say that you bought mostly top of accumulation here. Let's say that your HBAR average is 9.8 cents, right? So almost 10 cents. And you look at that 1.618 up there. That's an 8x opportunity. So you've done a year, 2 years, 3 years of accumulation. Let's say that, your average ends up being really high. I know a lot of you guys have a better average than 9 or 10 cents. And you see a 9 or 10, 8, 9, 10x on the table, and you're not going to take at least 30% off the table. That's kind of foolish in my opinion. Now, could it go higher? Of course. That $2.36 mark would be kind of like a full extension there. That would put us closer to like a 22x opportunity. If we were to go from that estimated average of that 9 or 10 cent average up there, it would be about a 22x opportunity up into that 4.236 for a full extension. Now, of course, the extensions go forever, guys. It's basic math, right? Like you guys can go on our website and watch how the Fibonacci theory works, but it basically goes on and on forever, right? And over time, they can be well respected. So is it possible that in the future, HBAR reaches prices like $7, $11, $18, $48, $79? Sure. But I think that happens over multiple cycles. So what would be the most smart thing to do here? De-risk as much as possible at TP1. We should be so grateful that we reached TP1 for 8, 9, or 10x, and then after that start to kind of however you want to go from there. Generally, most people, if they're able to take 30 to 50% of their position off the table at 1.618, they have completely de-risked the amount of money they put into the project, right? So that's putting money more back into your pocket. That's protecting your capital. And that's part of risk management, guys, is protecting your capital. So when you do that first TP, you're paying yourself back. You're also taking some profit. So you're actually realizing some profit and putting that in your pocket. The rest of it becomes risk on, right? So that's kind of up to you on how you want to play that. I've given you guys a lot of different ways on how you can potentially exit, but that's how I would suggest going about it. Always take what's in front of you, especially when you reach an initial target, and don't get greedy. It's so easy to get greedy at the top, and that's what these institution market makers count on, is that you're going to get greedier and greedier and just keep going heavier and heavier at the top. You really shouldn't be doing that much buying as we start to get into these, past 10 cent, 15 cent areas, unless you're swing trading, unless you have stop losses and you know what you're doing. Keep it simple, guys. That's all I have to say. Keep it simple. Trade the plan the trade, right?
Matty, I have a little strategy dilemma here because I've heard it from other people. Some people will go with the mindset, not of what we are doing with, our take profits, step by step, 1, 2, 3. That's what I'm doing. And not looking at Fibonacci's, but they'll say, hey, why don't you take out your initial investment, right? And what I'm doing with mine is I'm selling a portion at take profit 1 at that 1.618. Okay, what's better?
So, again, it also comes down to risk tolerance, maybe how much you have invested in the market. here's how I also look at it, right? Like you pay yourself back your initial investment, that's fine. You've at least de-risked that money. But let's also consider this factor. Let's say it's been 3 years you've been building this position, right? So for 3 long years you've been building this position, and each year the value of your money has been eroding because of inflation, right? We know inflation has been so much worse in the last 3 years than it has been over the last even 10 years, right? The cost of living from 2020 to current has gone up by like 22 or 23%. That's a huge jump in less than a 4-year period, right? So like the actual amount of money you have degrading in front of you, even though your investment has gone up, is something you have to account into that. So like take 20% or 30% off of what you actually invested, and that, or add 20 or 30%, and that's your actual amount that you should be taking out to protect yourself from at least what you have invested in, protect that wealth. So I think that we really need to take those things into consideration. Also have to consider capital gains, guys, right? Like when you go to sell, obviously you've been holding longer a year, you pay a lesser amount. You've been holding less than a year, you pay a larger amount. That's also going to eat into your profit margins, right? So like we want to make sure that we're covering inflation, our initial investment, as well as that capital gains in that first TP, right? That's kind of how I look at it. Again, you guys can approach this however you want. There's just a lot of factors people don't think about, especially over long-term investing versus like, okay, I got into this market 3 weeks ago. I only plan to be in the market for 8 months. That's a much different situation. But I know that's not the majority of you guys. Most of you guys have been building positions in these market for a meaningful amount of time.
Great answer, Matty. For me, 1618. That's TP1. That's
Get
where
after
it's
it, baby.
staying. And the final question of today, Nicolas says, where can I save my VELO investment since Mexi is not even accepting a different VPN?
So again, something else we were talking about backstage, I try to like decipher some of your guys' questions. So this kind of like maybe 2 parts to this. So first and foremost, anytime you get into a project, doesn't matter what the project is, there's always their own proprietary wallet they have. Now, how you link that up will be a variety of different ways, but they always have a self-custody wallet that should cost you nothing to set up, and you should be able to transfer to it. So I think it's called the Universe wallet for VELO. I also read a thread on Reddit saying that you can use like an X Stellar wallet, and you can utilize that with Ledger Live somehow. I'm not a VELO holder, so it's not something that I've researched in depth. So always go and look at that third-party wallet or that proprietary wallet. Now, as far as a VPN, I hope that you're able to log in. Also, guys, just stop taking these emails that you get from these larger exchanges as like suggestions, because they're not, right? Like they have these regulatory bodies coming down on them hard, and they don't care about you, right? So when they tell you, hey, get your coins off exchange by this date, and you guys think that you're special, like I don't know what to tell you, right? Like stop trying to fight God. Like it doesn't make sense to me. Like it's only going to be difficult when you try to fight the system like it is. So if you're saying VPN is in you can't sign back up, you can't buy more, yeah, that's always going to be the case. Doesn't matter if you use a VPN or not. Mexi, KuCoin for American citizens, gone. Forget about it. You're not getting back on there. Some people maybe have a handful of accounts that haven't been completely axed yet. Most of them have been dwarfed to withdrawal only. Now, if you're in a spot where you can't log in with VPN, they're telling you, hey, you're restricted. If you do get in, they're not letting you withdraw. You got to send a message to customer support, and you got to go through that. And I promise you, it's not going to be fun. It's probably not going to be easy because they're not super motivated to get your funds back to you. Now, you will get them back eventually, but if you had done this from the get-go and followed the instructions and gotten your coins off of exchange, probably wouldn't have been this way. So if you can't get into your account, you got to message them. Otherwise, just set your VPN to any non-blacklisted country. I usually go for Australia. It's usually a pretty friendly one. But if you're still having issues there, then you're going to have to reach out to support. There's really nothing you can do beyond that. You just got to do that. They're probably going to ask you for your ID and a variety of other things. But this is the price you pay for kind of trying to play this game of fire and sticking around on a US-based exchange, non-US based exchange. Excuse me.
Great stuff today, Matt. I think we covered a lot from Algorand and collaborations and a little help, a little tip to VELO there. We don't hold VELO, but we're willing to help. And I would love to know, are you guys Algorand holders? Because we've talked about Algorand, seemingly a lot in the past. And I know Matty here holds a little bag of Algo. Matty, you still have that bag of Algo?
Absolutely. Representing the top 10 holdings right now.
Oh, nice. Well, I hold no Algo just because I have other things to focus on over here. But I'm interested to know, team, do you hold Algorand? Let me know in the comments down below, and make sure if you got something valuable here, make sure you leave a like, and we will be back next week for some more fire content if the news, allows us to. If we get some more rumors, I'm done covering the stupid rumors. If it's popular enough, I know a lot of you guys said, hey, thank you for covering this. I was confused. I know that's helpful because I'll be honest with you, even before we recorded the show yesterday, I was like, is this off brand for us? Like, is this pushing the bounds? Because, we do want to push the bounds between like bringing the education and bringing the entertainment pieces. Like, we're going to rant about stupid rumors, right? And so I was thinking about it. I was like, you know what? I thought about it so much. Let's just do it. All right. If it doesn't come out, it won't come out. Surprisingly enough, everyone loved it. So it's like, okay, don't second guess yourself. The people know what they want, and what they want is us talking about Casper and us talking about these stupid things, because these things do take over Twitter. They do take over the Telegram, and that's what everyone said in the comments. And so I was like, oh, I'm glad I'm not the only one. So team, thank you for joining us today. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.